All right, hello and welcome. Today we are diving deep into something called patent term extension, or PTE. We're going to break down how you can turn this really complex legal thing from a total headache into, believe it or not, one of your sharpest strategic weapons. Let's get right into it.
So picture this. For any founder out there in biotech, pharma, you name it, this is the nightmare scenario, right? You spend a decade, maybe more, and millions of dollars to get your amazing product to market, only to have your patent protection disappear just as you're starting to see a return. The stakes are just incredibly high.
So the root of the whole problem is this. You're not just on one timeline. You're actually in a race against two completely separate clocks. And here's the kicker. They're in conflict with each other, constantly eating away at your most valuable asset, your time.
Okay, so here's the fundamental challenge. On one hand, you've got the patent clock. It's rigid. The day you file your patent, boom, it starts ticking down from 20 years. No breaks, no pauses. But at the same time, you're on the regulatory clock. And this one? It's completely wild and unpredictable. The FDA review could take a couple of years, or it could drag on for a decade or more. And every single day that regulatory clock is ticking, it's chewing up your precious fixed patent term.
So, how do you fight back? Well, that's where patent term extension comes into the picture. You can think of it as a lifeline. It's a legal way for you to claw back up to 5 years of your patent's life that got eaten up by those FDA delays. So this isn't about getting extra time, it's about reclaiming the time that was already yours to begin with. And this, right here, brings us to the single biggest mistake we see companies make, especially early-stage ones. They treat their patent strategy and their regulatory strategy like two separate worlds, run by different teams that barely talk. But the companies that win, the ones who really maximize their protection, they get that these two things are woven together from day one.
Okay, so your product finally gets approved. You'd think you could relax, right? Not at all. In fact, the clock doesn't just keep ticking, it starts sprinting. You're now in a period that is absolutely unforgiving. There are no second chances.
60, that's the number. You have to burn it into your brain. From the date printed on your official FDA approval letter, you have exactly 60 days to get your PTE application filed. And let me be clear, that's not from when you get the email or when the letter lands on your desk. It's from the date printed on the letter itself. And there is zero wiggle room here. The law is absolute. If you miss that deadline, it's not something you can just fix or appeal later. Your right to get back those potentially crucial 5 years of market exclusivity, it just disappears. Gone for good. So, let's break down the most common ways companies stumble here. First, the start date snafu. We just talked about it, but it's so common. People think the clock starts when they get the letter. Nope, it's the date on it. Second, the decision delay. You cannot afford to wait until day 1 of 60 to start figuring out which patent to extend. That's a recipe for disaster. And finally, the silo slip-up. This is a classic. The regulatory team gets the good news but doesn't tell the legal team for a day or two, and you've just wasted precious time you'll never get back. Now, being ready for that 60-day window brings up the next huge question. You only get to extend one patent for each product. So, which one do you pick? This is not just a legal question, it's a massive business strategy decision.
You have to ask yourself this critical question. Which one of our patents, if we extend it, builds the highest wall against our competitors? Which one protects the core commercial value of our product? Because if you extend the wrong one, you could still be really vulnerable, even with those extra years.
This is the kind of strategic thinking you need. I mean, do you extend your core compound patent? That stops direct copycats. But what if a competitor is smart enough to design around it? Maybe a method of use patent is actually stronger, because it could block anyone from using a drug for that specific approved purpose. Or, hey, maybe it's the formulation patent that protects your unique delivery system. The right answer really depends on your product and your competitive landscape.
And this is exactly why you can't wait until that 60-day clock starts ticking to make this call. No way. This whole strategic analysis, weighing the pros and cons of each patent, that needs to be happening while your product is still in late-stage trials. You need to have your choice, and maybe even a backup, figured out way ahead of time.
So, we've talked about the why, the when, and the what. Now let's get into the how. This is your playbook for turning a potential 4-alarm fire into a smooth, controlled, and successful process.
Preparation is everything. Seriously, long before you even think you'll get approval, you should have a PTE go bag ready.
That means all your patent details are in one place, you've got the regulatory submission number, you've even drafted the US PTO forms. And here's a crucial one that people often miss. Make sure the patent owner is the same entity as the one on the FDA approval. And finally, have one person, a single point of contact, whose job it is to grab that approval letter the second it's available and run it over to the legal team.
This quote just nails the whole mindset shift you need to have. If you build the PTE filing right into your product launch plan, just like you would with manufacturing or marketing, it stops being a panicked, last-minute emergency. It just becomes another box to check on your way to a successful launch.
And let's be real, trying to manage all these moving parts and critical dates on a spreadsheet is just asking for trouble. One little mistake, one missed date, can be absolutely catastrophic. A centralized system that tracks both your patent and regulatory clocks isn't a nice-to-have, it's your absolute best defense against a simple, costly mistake.
Okay, let's bring this all home. When you really master this whole process, PTE stops being this defensive move to just reclaim lost time. It actually becomes an offensive strategy for building a bigger, better competitive edge.
Because you have to think, what are you going to do with those 5 extra years? You're not just going to sit back and count the money. No, that is your golden opportunity to deepen your moat. You can file new patents on improvements. You can develop the next-gen version of your product. You can even go after new markets. You're using that time you got back to build an even stronger defense for the future.
And that, right there, is the ultimate takeaway. What starts out as your biggest liability, all that time you lose waiting for regulators, can be completely transformed. With the right strategy, you can turn it into your most powerful asset for dominating the market long-term.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When you really look at your own company, is your IP strategy just a task, something on a checklist, or are you actively using it to forge your greatest competitive advantage? The answer to that question could really define your company's future.